Hello and welcome to episode 7 of Irish Nerdcasts, where we discuss all of your favorite nerdy topics from giant robots to magical girls. My name is Hannah.
And I'm JoJo, and on today's episode, we're going to be giving our recommendations on animes that we think you should watch.
You might already feel some interesting energy in the studio today.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm excited.
Okay, so we are going to make this a short episode to make sure we stay on schedule this week, as we've had a few complications the last couple of weeks.
Oh, mildly. Putting it mildly. But yeah, we have selected 5 animes each that we are going to be discussing today. Kind of in broad terms that we think if you are a fan of anime or if you're looking to get into anime, maybe these are a couple that you could add to your watch lists.
I don't know about you, but personally, with my list, I tried to choose the not so obvious anime.
I feel like I only have one that is like a something that people would likely already know of.
Yeah, like it's very easy to recommend the likes of, even though not everyone likes it, but the likes of Demon Slayer and stuff like that, like Demon Slayer, Bleach, any of
Yeah,
those.
that would be crazy, wouldn't it? To recommend any of those. Let's start. Let's begin. What's your number one? What's your first pick to discuss, Jojo? Let me hear you talk for a while.
Uh, on the first hurdle. Anyways, that was what I chose to do. Good thing I didn't pick Demon Slayer. Okay, getting
I'm
back into it.
dying. I'm actually dying. Oh my
So,
god.
I did order my list in terms of what I scored them.
Okay.
So, I'm starting on the lowest score, going to the highest.
All right.
They are all all high scores.
So for context, we did this on a site called AnyList. We'll have a link to that in the description. Highly recommend it. It's a very cool site. I went with the 5-star ranking system.
Right. I always go 10 out of 10.
Number out of 10. Gotcha.
That's just what I learned in college when I'm grading food and stuff like that. It's out of 10 type thing.
Professional chef.
Okay, yeah. You don't have to say it every time.
But you are though.
So, all right. If we are going to get into it, then my first recommendation, this would be for an action genre.
Okay.
So, my first recommendation is actually from a South Korean studio, and it is called Solo Leveling.
Oh, okay. I've not watched Solo Leveling.
A lot of people knew about Solo Leveling before I did. Everyone was very excited, like, "Oh, Solo Leveling's getting an anime
That's
adaptation."
yeah, it's a webtoon.
Yeah, I didn't actually know about it, but initially I looked at the trailers and stuff, and then like, eh, I'll give it a shot. Everyone's talking about it, so like it must be okay, I guess. And then initially, kind of in the first episode, I wasn't sold, and
Did you give it
then
the 3 episode rule?
I gave it my usual 3 episode rule.
Mm-hmm,
Normally, I
mm-hmm.
would give an anime 3 episodes, and if it doesn't sell me by then, or if it hasn't completely lost me already, that's it. I'll move on to other things. Basically, doesn't happen too often, but it does happen. So yeah, Solo Leveling is my first recommendation. Out of 10, I did give it a score of 8,
Okay.
and the reason I recommend it is it's the basic premise of it is that in this world there's, I'm not going to remember the exact name of everything in it, but in this world there's basically hunters, or like that they go into these pocket dimensions. It's actually very similar
To
to,
Zenless Zone Zero, you mentioned this during our
yes,
episode.
mentioned it
Yes.
before in one of our early episodes, that it is very like the premise of Zenless Zone Zero, that there's these pocket dimensions that are popping up and they're spreading, and to stop the spread they have to go into them, clear out the boss, and that will close the, I think it's called the gate. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but in the anime everyone is assigned a rank, and normally you don't go outside that rank, and it never changes. There's no improving. So the main character, if I remember correctly, Jinwoo, he is the lowest rank possible. He is absolutely terrible, but his mother is in hospital and he needs to make some money. So he signs up to hunt, or to go in to clear the gates. Again, I don't remember all the terms. And in one of them, certain circumstances happen, and it means that he gains an ability that allows him to actually increase his level. So technically, he is still rank E. He still shows up as rank E, like if they do a test on him, but he has a separate system to everyone else that he's using.
It does sound a little bit like what happens. Obviously, it's not one for one, but it reminds me of what happens to Kirito in the first season of Sword Art Online.
Kind of ish. But that
Just in terms
was
of like he is special compared to everybody else.
he was special because he was a beta tester, but yeah,
Beta des.
beta this. I'm curious. We'll get to it.
Because I've not watched any of Solo Leveling and I've not read the webtoon. I do get it recommended to me on the app sometimes.
Yeah,
What?
I do recommend it for you as well. Actually, it's very good.
Yeah, what about it like makes you want to recommend it to people?
It's just that it's action packed. The fight scenes are just so cool. Watching him, like initially watching him being all pathetic and struggling, and
Mm-hmm.
then watching him overcome this, but still also trying to keep a guise of I'm only an E rank.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's just fun to watch a character become overpowered. And I can't say that initially he is overpowered. You do have to watch him struggle a little bit. He's basically like on the verge of death several times, and each time he gets stronger and stronger from these experiences.
Yeah.
The system that he's using, it's kind of like a moderator or like there's some guy behind it,
Okay.
and it's basically just completely messing with him.
Okay. Okay.
So he is their pawn, but he is benefiting from it.
That sounds like a really really cool story. What is it like visually though? Because often I feel like a lot of um again like I've not seen anything of it. I've seen a couple of the trailers and the trailers look very impressive. What is like the stylistic components? The you know visually is it nice to look at? Is it pretty? Is it just like cool animation?
The animation style, if you watch anime regularly, it's there's something a little bit different about it. It
Okay.
doesn't feel like your typical anime in style.
Do you think it's because it's based on a webtoon and it comes from a South Korean animation studio as opposed to a traditional Japanese studio?
Possibly.
Because
It is very crisp. It's like
uh
the lines are very how do I put it? It's a little angular. Everything seems a little bit skinnier than it would normally be in animation.
having read a lot of webtoons, that tracks.
But it keeps up with a lot of the anime tropes or
Yeah.
like styles. So they still have like the big eyes and the spiky hair, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Because I remember we watched. I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head. There was a Chinese animation that we watched on Crunchyroll, and we could tell by watching it. One, it was in Chinese, like there was
Was
no dubbing, but
was this Tower of God? No.
no, it wasn't Tower
Oh,
of God.
I do remember which one it was. I just can't think of the name of it.
But like even visually, we were like something is different here in terms of like the animation style and like kind of the emphasis of what is being focused on in terms of the overall animation. That's why I asked because I was curious. It coming from a webtoon and a South Korean production.
They keep its Korean origin, which I like.
Yeah, that's nice.
I like that they kept who they are. Like sometimes when they get translated or made into an anime or something like that, they might change
Yeah,
the names to make it fit more. But
fit with the Western idea of what a anime is.
yeah. And the great thing about solo leveling is that if you start watching it now, you won't have to wait long until you have season two, which comes out early October.
Oh wow! Because I remember seeing trailers for that a while ago. Is that coming out soon?
Season two, yeah.
Oh
I
wow!
posted it
Maybe
on our Instagram as well.
maybe I will give that a go then.
Well,
In
give
in
season one a go first.
Well, that's what I mean. I'll watch season one in preparation for season two. I'll give it the 3 episode rule, see if it hooks me.
Yeah, I'll be more than happy to watch it with you again.
Yeah. That's gonna go on my plan to watch list.
Okay. And now time for me to completely chastise you for your choices.
So you ordered your list in terms of your individual ranking of each. As I said, I went with the 5-star method, as opposed to out of 10. And I've kind of ordered these in the order that I was introduced to them in.
Okay, fair.
All right, I'm ready to be read to filth now.
Let's go.
So, first on my list is the melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya.
I have my grievances about this anime. It is so difficult to watch and makes no sense. Not something I personally would recommend to someone only getting into anime.
Right. Okay. Listen, I have to
No,
justify
there's no
this.
justification. Okay, we're
No,
moving
no,
on.
I have to.
Next. So next on my list
No.
is
Okay, so this anime came out in 2009. It is based off of a manga, based off of a light novel of the same name. I first watched this. This was my second anime ever that I watched on YouTube.
nostalgia is a powerful
It
thing.
is.
It's about the only thing that's working here.
Like we're talking the what people are doing with TikToks and YouTube Shorts now with like episodes of House and Grey's Anatomy. I was doing with anime back in like 2008 and 2009, which is people would upload it in like parts.
To be fair, there was nowhere else we could actually watch this stuff.
Not legally, anyway.
Yeah. That was the only thing that was available to us as teens.
Yeah, as teenagers. But anyway, the Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya is a supernatural high school
Don't call it a slice of life.
slice of life.
It's not a slice of life.
Slice of multiple
I'll give you
lives.
supernatural. I'll give you high school. It's not a slice of life because there's nothing that happens in it that is everyday life.
They're part of a club.
There's nothing. Absolutely, absolutely nothing in it is everyday life.
Okay. I will read the description as listed by an list.
The most weird stuff happens every single day.
Let me read it. Oh, okay. Kyo, shut your shush.
We're gonna bleep this all out.
No. This stays in. It's authentic. Kyon has found himself dragged through many adventures as of late, all because of the SOS Brigade Club and its excitable leader, Haruhi Suzumiya.
Sorry, what was that name?
Which name?
What was the male guy?
Kyon?
Kyon, so he's Irish.
Shush.
Oh, Kyon there.
He has stopped believing in the supernatural long ago, but after being forced to join this club based solely on that, he has seen things that cannot be explained logically. Joining Kyon on his various misadventures is the shy and soft-spoken Mikuru Asahina, the bookish Yuki Nagato, and the ever-cheerful Itsuki Koizuma.
One of is a time traveler, one's an alien.
No, we'll get to that. Whether it is summer vacation or a school festival, things involving their club and Haruhi herself always end up becoming strange. So,
I will say, I really empathize and relate to Kyon because
he doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah, because it doesn't make any sense and no logic can explain it.
All right, so that is the broad strokes of it. Our main character is a high school student named Kyon. He has just started high school. And on the first day of school, everybody does their introductions, and the girl sitting behind him is named Haruhi Suzumiya. She has a reputation of being a weirdo, and she introduces herself being like, I have no interest in ordinary people. If you are an alien, time traveler, or Esper, please come and talk to me and join the SOS Brigade, which is a club that she founds on her first day. And
I don't think she understands what SOS means.
The SOS does stand for something.
Yeah.
It does not stand for, help me. But does it in a way. Anyway, so Kyon very quickly becomes a object of Haruhi's banter and like annoyances, basically. So, because he engages with her one day, like commenting on her hairstyle.
He becomes her fixation.
Yes, he does. And it's because he, engages with her one day and she like cuts her hair based on a comment that he makes and then decides to, rope him into her shenanigans. In which, as mentioned, she ropes in 3 other people, Mikuru Hasahina, Yuki Nagato, and Izumi Koizumi. And unbeknownst to Haruhi, but Kyon finds out from engaging with these 3, they are a time traveler, an alien, and an Esper, all sent to this one place in order to monitor Haruhi Suzumiya, who, for lack of a better word, is a god. She wills things into existence around her, and this is why so many crazy things happen. She essentially summoned the 3 of them there just by saying she wanted to meet with a time traveler, an Esper, and an alien.
Yeah, so there is a lot of stories and media that does this kind of trope
Yeah,
of willing things into existence. So
but the thing is,
Bruce Almighty is kind of similar thing.
yeah, yeah,
The Inkheart, all this type of thing.
yeah. But the thing is, she is completely unaware of it.
Yeah, unaware that it's happening.
She has absolutely no clue. Kyon is the one who is like,
So
he's the only normal person in the main cast, and he is tasked by the other three being like, don't let her find out, but also don't make her angry, otherwise she might erase all of existence because she's bored. You're like her one anchor point.
so Kyon's clueless, he's clueless, the audience is clueless.
Yeah. And as you said, it can be confusing to watch because it technically has two airing orders. One is referred to as the Kyon broadcast, and the other is referred to as the Haruhi broadcast. And the Kyon broadcast was the
or the
original.
chronological and logical.
Well, not even that, because one, it was originally aired completely out of order, and then it was re-aired in order. And the chronological version of episodes 1 to 25 is the Haruhi broadcast. The other broadcast, the Kyon broadcast, goes episode 11, episode 1, episode 2, episode 7, on and on and on.
How is this a recommendation for people who might have not watched anime?
Listen, I think it's a good recommendation of anime. I also want to preface right now, only watched the first season. The second season is not as good at all. For reasons I'll get to.
And you can't even watch the second season of it. Like,
you can. I'm just saying that the second season I didn't enjoy as much as the first season for reasons I'll explain. I think the Kyon broadcast order is valid. You are probably going to have a better experience watching the Haruhi broadcast order, which again, that's if you like find it on Crunchyroll, I believe it is in the Haruhi broadcast order because that's what was put on all of the DVDs. But I think it's a great introduction to a lot of anime tropes. It's got the school life thing. It's technically got a love triangle. It's got supernatural elements. It's got your trifecta of girl characters in a way because we've got shy, we've got quiet, and we've got bubbly Haruhi. We also have
Shy and Quiet are the two.
Well, we've got shy in terms of Mikuru Asahina, who is quite voluptuous, as some anime girls are, but she's all meek and shy, and oh, why is Haruhi putting me in a bunny girl outfit?
Oh yeah, there's actually quite a bit of ecchi in that regard.
There is some fan service for sure, and then we have Nagato, who does not speak a lot of the time,
which won't be our next episode, but our next anime episode is going to be discussing fan service in anime. Just a little bit of a.
I will also say it has a phenomenal dub. It has a great dub. Fantastic dubbing cast. It also has really good music. Very iconic opening, very iconic ending.
The music is good, I'll give that.
Like, if you ever went to a convention in the early 2010s, you have seen characters, or you've seen people cosplaying these characters doing a very specific dance.
Oh yeah, it's completely dead now. No one cares.
Nobody knows about it now. But like, this was peak culture. From about 2009 to, I want to say, 2014, or whenever Madoka Magica came out.
Yeah, I'm glad we improved over the years.
Yeah, like, I'm not saying that it's not a masterpiece. I am very aware of all of its flaws. As I said, I would not recommend season 2, and that is because there is a 8-episode gap in season 2, which is the same episode over and over again, called the Endless 8, because they're stuck in a time loop because Haruhi doesn't want summer vacation to end. And it's interesting from like a story standpoint, but they really didn't have to do it that way. And I also learned from an interview with Johnny on Bosch, who voices Izumi, that they made them record all of the dialogue for each of those 8 episodes individually. They did not reuse any takes from like the first 2 versions of that episode. They just kept having them say the same lines over and over again.
So,
which is its own special kind of torture.
Yeah, that's very interesting that the episode is the exact same, but there's like maybe ever so slight.
There's slight differences.
Just horrible.
Like one character will say how many times they've gone through the loop, that type of thing.
That's so horrible. I hate that so much.
They did it in the manga too, and in the light novel. 8 chapters were just the same thing.
That
over and
that
over
just
again.
seems like someone who couldn't think of the next bit of the story and was stalling.
I do think it's clever. It's just not great to watch. But again, watch season 1. It has 25 episodes as opposed to season 2, which I believe only has 15. Because we were allowed longer seasons at that time.
Just on that note, Solo Leveling is 12 episodes long.
Mm.
Don't know if that's going to be another 12 episodes for season 2, but just put it out there.
More like 12 episodes is standard now. Because you were derailing me and making fun of me for picking Haruhi Suzumiya for my list. Because you thought I wouldn't.
I thought you shouldn't.
But I wanted to pose this question, just like, again, if you are new to anime, or in any way, there was a meme circulating in anime circles, again, in and around 2015, thereabouts, when Madoka Magica started airing, which was a comparison between Haruhi Suzumiya and the titular character of Madoka, who, spoilers, at the end of that season becomes a god. I was curious because you're a lot more up to date on anime than I am. Do we have a new god of the 2020s?
There's so many animes now that actually have a god character in them that it's kind of hard.
That's fair.
I feel like Konosuba would be the closest thing.
Oh, fair. I was gonna ask if it was Jujutsu Kaisen.
Not yet.
Okay. All right. Good to know. Good to know.
The fan base is a little bit separate for those two.
That's fair. That's fair. Anyway, Haruhi Suzumiya. Try it, maybe.
Haruhi Suzumiya is a great example of sometimes you can do too much. It's nice to focus sometimes.
Fair.
If you're looking for a history lesson, it is worth watching.
It's culture, dang it. You gotta look where we came from to appreciate where we're going.
Some people like watching bad stuff like
Shush!
that. Okay, we'll get into
Your second pick.
my second pick, which probably will have similar reactions.
Okay.
A lot of people absolutely love this anime, and a lot of people just don't like
Oh.
this genre.
Okay. Oh no. Okay. I thought maybe I knew what it was. What is it?
If you were to take a guess of what my number 2 spot is, what do you think?
Based off of your assumptions that I'm not gonna enjoy this.
I think you'd enjoy it.
Oh, okay.
No, I actually.
Well, then I have absolutely no idea.
Okay. No, I would highly recommend you watch this. I recommend anyone to watch it.
Okay, so
It's
I've not
fantastic.
watched it yet.
No.
All right, then I have no clue. I thought it was going to be Your Lie in April.
No, Your Lie in April is an honorable mention, but
We don't have time for that fight.
And so my second pick is that time I got reincarnated as a slime.
Oh, you've recommended this to me several times. Yep.
It is 24 episodes long. I scored it a 9 out of 10.
Fair enough.
And for genre, this is kind of my pick for, I suppose, isekai, though there is technically one more isekai later on.
Isekai is a very popular genre. We're going to cross that a few times, I think.
Yeah.
Digimon's an isekai. So many animes we wouldn't have considered isekais or isekais.
Isekai is basically someone from one world typically reincarnating in another
Usually.
world.
Yeah.
Slime is also an isekai, where a salaryman who is a little bit unhappy with his life, fed up with the mundane day to day, ends up dying while protecting his coworker, but basically protecting the person he was with from this mugger that had a knife and was like holding the knife out, basically stabbing, protect them from stabbing, and was bleeding out. And as he was bleeding out, basically goes to the coworker, delete everything off my PC. So a little bit of a funny haha there at the end. And this is relatively short. His past life honestly doesn't really come into the series all that much, other than the fact that he has, I guess, what you can call meta knowledge.
Yeah, because it's the world he ends up in is kind of themed like a video game, right?
Kind of.
They usually are.
Well, it's a fantasy world. It is fantasy. This is what I pick kind of as my fantasy / isekai genre. And he kind of knows that, okay, well, certain things are probably true in this world. Like, I'm assuming certain tropes are going to be the same. Some are, some aren't. But he wakes up, it's just pitch black. He can't see anything. He can't feel anything. He can't speak. He can't move his body. He has no idea what's going on. And eventually he kind of figures out, like, oh, I can kind of move like this. And he's just feeling around. Eventually gets to a pool and he can look inside and figures out that what he is a slime. If you know anything about slimes, typically they're the weakest enemy. They don't do much other than move along the ground and absorb things. So you would think something like this is kind of boring, but it turns out that he's not an ordinary slime.
Sorry, because I was going to say, because I do vaguely remember the first episode of this. I didn't get into it at the same time as you did. Um, but am I right in saying that like when he's passing over into the new world, he's like just saying random stuff, being like, at least in my maybe in my next life I'll be a little more adaptable, and then a like the voice of God or whoever is like adaptability 100% or whatever the case may be, and all of that is what culminates into him becoming a slime and becoming a not ordinary slime because he's essentially indestructible or something.
It's not that he's indestructible. He has health,
Right.
but yeah, I think somewhere along those lines was what happened. I'm on like several OVAs, movie, and seasons later.
Yeah,
So
when did it come out?
it initially aired in October of 2018.
Wow, okay, yeah. So 6 years ago?
So I'll be honest, recalling the first episode is a little bit difficult just because so much has happened since, but vaguely, and the reason I'm recommending it is just it has such amazing world building. It's one of my favorite animes for world building.
It also has really, really cool designs in it.
Yeah,
Character
I
designs.
I love the designs of all the characters. If you're into like fantasy characters and stuff, and especially like monster characters,
Yeah.
this is just completely filled with all of that.
Yeah, it's also kind of an underdog story. A
Yeah.
little bit.
So the basic principle of the very start, anyways, is that he is special. He has this power to just absorb everything, and everything that he absorbs, he can kind of reuse, which is what you're saying there with the adaptability. So he's in a cave, and
Hmm.
the only bit of sustenance that is around him is this glowing grass.
Like medicinal herb
Yeah,
type
medicinal
thing.
herb that would be turned into potions. So basically, infinite health from that point. He takes out a couple of small creatures and stuff like that. Eventually, he comes to a part of the cave where he bumps into something that's invisible, which is basically a barrier.
Hmm.
And I don't remember the exact details, but eventually it leads to him meeting a dragon who's been sealed away. This dragon is a calamity class monstrosity, like it is the end of the world
Big
basic.
bad.
Yeah. It's basically the end of the world natural event. And he's just so bored. He just wants to be away from the cave. So they kind of come up with an idea of the slime or Rimuru absorbing him to try and figure out how to actually release him in a future date. And
Sorry, bud, gotta eat you now.
yeah, but his obviously the dragon is kind of like a conscience in him in a sense, or is like a it's he's there. His soul's there.
Fully thought you said like conscience, as in Jiminy Cricket style.
No, like a consciousness inside him.
Gotcha.
So he is there, and he can like every so often like speak up about things.
Rinmaru, here's some exposition.
Yeah, a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Explains to the audience that thing. Um, Also, just gonna say this is such a funny anime.
Yeah.
It is absolutely hilarious, and the reason I recommend this anime is very much that, like I was saying, the world building is great. I think it has an amazingly funny story.
Mm-hmm.
The development that happens in it is absolutely fantastic as well. Seeing all these cool things happen as he absorbs more and he solves problems.
I know, again, just from cultural osmosis, that he eventually gains a human form.
Yeah, he eventually gains a human form that he uses, but there's quite a lot of significance to why he has that. So I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah.
gonna.
I just know
Yeah,
that from like seeing similar to, you're scrolling on Crunchyroll and you see reincarnation of a slime and you see this character. So
yeah. I will say it is a very touching moment.
okay.
The relationships that are built in this anime are like some of the best I've seen. Like there's character development for every character you see. Everyone has their own agendas and their own ideas and stuff like that.
Motivations and
Yeah,
that's nice.
you feel like you can get to know all the characters in the anime.
Yeah. Everybody is important.
Yeah, and there's such a variety as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I've watched 3 seasons and OVAs and everything of this, and from where it has come from to where it ends up, you've probably seen some of it online, or you might have heard about it or anything like that. But basically, eventually, he has a whole kingdom that he's running
Wow.
himself. Like,
From humble beginnings.
yeah,
Started at the bottom, now we're here.
he finds out basically if something gets a name, it becomes more powerful.
Oh, I love that type of lore.
So he saves a village of goblins. I think he benefits the goblin village in some way when he
Yeah.
eventually gets out into the world. And again, goblins not that strong.
Typically a bad guy as well.
Yeah, and they're a monster. It's basically that all of them were just basically like, this is Goblin 1, this is Goblin 2, this is Goblin. They
Mm-hmm.
didn't have names, and Rimuru was like, oh, that is just like so complicated. We have to actually give you guys names. I have to call you a name. I can't just say,
Give you a number, yeah.
I can't just go, you with the red hair here, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So Rimuru starts giving names, and they're like really excited, and he doesn't understand why. And he gives the first one a name, and then all of a sudden feels really tired, and it's like, what happened? What's going on? And like the goblin he gave a name evolved into a hobgoblin.
Oh, okay.
So by giving them a name, he's infusing them with some of his power, which he has huge amounts of health and mana now.
Because of all of the grass.
Yeah, well, he has the dragon's mana.
Oh, that too. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
So he's using the dragon's mana, they're giving these people names, and they're all evolving and becoming powerful.
That's really cool.
And they're becoming more intelligent and more sociable, and like they're just like an elevated being.
That's almost like hinging on Warhammer orc logic a little bit.
Well, like
Just a
just if I believe,
smidgen.
well, or Warhammer is if they don't even know that they're doing it, but they're
Much like Haruhi Suzumiya, yeah.
it's like if they believe something strong enough,
It will be true.
it will be true, but they don't realize that.
But again, like they say this guy is the strongest and then he is. So in the similar vein of like, we're gonna give this guy an epithet, we're gonna give him a name. He is now
Yeah.
become that. That's dope, actually. I
Um,
didn't know that about slime.
this is why I've been recommending this to you.
It's very long.
You will feel that it's too short when you start watching it.
Probably, yeah.
It is a long anime. Like
Alright, it's going on the list.
season 4 is, or sorry, season 1 is 24 episodes long. Season 2 is also, I think, 20 something episodes, and season 3 is 20 something episodes. There is a spin-off that just goes on about his like the daily life. It's more of a slice of life part of the anime. I haven't actually watched it. I should. And
No, that one you missed.
yeah,
Huh.
and there's a few OVAs. It's really worth watching. It is fun. You'll enjoy the story. The characters are amazing, and you will be wanting more as you go into it.
Okay, well, I'm definitely way more intrigued than I have been previously. So, as I said, it's gone on the plan to watch list. But speaking of lists, it's time for my number 2 pick. And I have chosen Oran High School Host Club, to the surprise of nobody who knows me.
It has its problems, but I think it's good.
Listen,
That's a good recommendation.
Again,
honestly.
we're talking early anime. I believe it came out in 2006. Yes, it came out in 2006, but I learned of its existence after watching Haruhi as a teenager. Ironically,
The main character is called
yeah, we
Haruhi.
also have a Haruhi in this show, which is Haruhi Fujioka.
I think I do. I'm very fond of the anime myself, even though the voice actor for one of the characters
Yeah,
is problematic. I think it is a great introduction to the concept of harem anime, and this
Yeah,
is a
this
nice
is-
start with it being a reverse harem.
yeah. To break down what it is, to read the blurb here.
Oh, didn't do that this time. Oh well.
Well, again, like the blurb is quite long, but I'll give the summarized version of it. Haruhi Fujioka wins a scholarship to attend Oran Academy, which is a very, very fancy school, which is full of high society types.
She is very much not.
Yeah, nobody gives her the time of day because she can't afford a school uniform and she doesn't really care about their opinions anyway, so she just slips under the radar. Until one day, when looking for a quiet place to read and study, she stumbles across an empty music room So she thinks it's actually the club room of the Oron High School Host Club, which, if you are unfamiliar, a host club in Japan is a business in which usually women go and are doted upon by men, the hosts of the club. This can be anything from just, talking with them, telling them they look nice, giving them food and drinks, cigarettes in the real life versions. This is obviously a high school edition, so it's mainly just like cakes and tea and like
They put
compliments.
they put a lollipop in their mouth, that kind of thing.
Yeah, like, that does happen. Um, and of course, the club is full of, to his opinion, rich weirdos. But she accidentally knocks over a 8 million yen vase, which she obviously can't afford to fix, and so they enlist her to become a host.
Is it not like 800 million or something?
And no, it's 8 million yen.
It is 8 million.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
In retrospect, it's actually not that much, but
yeah,
for
and you'll notice that I'm using she, her pronouns for Haruhi Fujioka, and that is because she is technically biologically female. However, due to her lack of interest in her own appearance, everybody in the school believes she is a boy,
yes,
including the members of the host club until the end of episode 1, at which point it is too late. So, as you said, it is a great introduction to the concept of harem anime. If you're unfamiliar with harem anime, typically it does focus on a singular male protagonist, and the rest of the supporting cast is usually female cast members who are in love with the protagonist.
it's typically based on dating sims and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, normally it's pick one of the girls, and then some genres went to have all the girls.
Yes. If you've ever played a Persona game, it's kind of like that.
It's, how to put it? Like, harem can be tasteful. It can
It
be
can
very
be.
good. And this is just a bit of an honorable mention. I wanted to put this on the list, but I didn't, unfortunately.
This
One
quintuplets.
one of the recommendations I would have is quintessential quintuplets, which is a harem, but he does ultimately actually end up with one of them.
Yeah, the problem with a lot of harem anime is that they just continue in perpetuity because every romantic choice must be considered valid. Because often these games that they're based on do not have a true choice. However, Oron is different. One, because as you mentioned, it's a reverse harem. We have a singular female character and a supporting male cast. But two, only two of the characters are in love with her, of the core six. Um, those being the leader of the club, Tamaki Suo, and one of the Hitachin twins, Hikaru Hitachin, twin of Karuno Hitachin. But the other reason why I think this is a great pick for a first anime
I
is, sorry, go ahead,
sorry, I was just gonna say, I know you say that only two of them are
in
like
love
in
with
love with
her.
her.
Yes.
I think only two of them act on the feelings. I think the rest do gain some admiration or do
Yeah,
like
they
her.
all
And
have interactions with her that would not be out of bounds in a dating sim of some kind. An otome game is typically how they're referred to for the female demographic.
yeah,
Um, However, one of the reasons I love Oron so much is it is primarily a deconstruction of all of those tropes.
yeah, and it is kind of a satire in its own way,
It
but
is 100% a satire,
yeah,
and it not just of harem tropes. And again, it is not subtle about the fact that it is a satire. There is an episode in which a young child wanders into the host club, and they're all dressed like, I think in that particular episode, because they have dress ups in every episode. I think they're all dressed as like medieval knights, and she just comes in and points at them and goes, "It's a reverse harem. It's the prince. It's the strong and silent type. It's the cool guy. It's the bookworm. It's the Shota." Like, she just lists off all of their demographics. There's also fake twincest, but anyway. And it was the
uh,
creators.
didn't have to bring that up.
It's a central thing. We can't avoid it.
It is fake.
It is absolutely fake. It was the creator kind of pointing out at the time, previously having written traditional shoujo manga, of like, here are all the tropes that we're dealing with at the moment and why they're silly, and why the prince, our princely character, in reality is actually incredibly sheltered and doesn't understand what instant coffee is. And
That's honestly one of my favorite moments of that show is him discovering instant coffee. What is this
and
madness?
instant ramen. And again, like that's not a unique experience for Tamaki Suo. And again, he is trope upon trope upon trope. He is the son of the chancellor of the school. It's why he gets special privileges. He is half Japanese, half French. He is blonde and blue eyed. He's obsessed with Japanese culture as well as referring to commoner culture. Um, like his ultimate dream is to sit under a katatsu. And it's also
It's
incredibly.
just so
it's
it's just so adorable. I want to sit
it's
under a
great.
like there's something he doesn't have.
Yeah, and it's so nice, and the relationships amongst the main cast are great, and there's again a lot of other queer aspects of the show as well. Not just the fact that Haruhi is a masculine presenting female protagonist, and
There's also her dad.
in the dub of the show, they refer to her dad as a drag queen. In the manga and the Japanese, it is more likely that they are trans. It kind of like we're talking early 2000s, so it's not the best depiction, but it's not 100% harmful either. It's not made fun of. It's just his dad dresses as a woman and lives their life as
There's
a woman.
there's a little bit of there's a little bit of making fun of, but not
Yeah, like
overtly.
yeah, not of her dad specifically. One of his friends is also a former like barman or something like that who opens an inn and dresses as a woman but has a full 5 o'clock shadow. Again, it's not fantastic representation, but it's absolutely not the worst that you could get either.
It was before a time where it was absolutely the worst thing to see in media or for people
Yeah.
going.
There's
Um,
also
when people didn't care for some
yeah,
reason, and now
exactly.
people are way more
People
audible.
are up in arms about it. There's also a lot of queer representation in terms of what we critique nowadays, the fetishization of gay male relationships. In that, as mentioned, two of the characters, the twins, their trope that they put on in the host club is a forbidden love aspect, love between twins, love between brothers. And it's specifically pitched that way because they know the female students are going to eat it up. It's referred to as moe in the dub. More accurately, it is Shoenai and Yaoi that they are working off of. There is a similar thing between two of the other characters, Honey and Mori, who are the Shota and the strong silent type, respectively, where because Honey has a toothache and Mori is his protector, he like aggressively grabs his chin and pulls his face up to his, and all of the girls lose their minds. Like again, it is a deconstruction of these types of relationships because Haruhi's there going, why is this a big deal? There's also the lesbian school next door, basically.
Don't give away too much because this is going to be something in the fan service episode.
It is definitely going to be in the fan service episode, and I'll pump the brakes on it there. It's a 26 episode season. There is only one season,
Yeah,
to my
unfortunately,
dismay.
it is not finished in that regard.
This is the thing, right? So, 26 episodes, and it kind of got the Full Metal Alchemist treatment in that it technically has an ending, but the ending is not canon to the manga. The manga ran for 18 volumes. I own all of them. They were very difficult to track down because again, this is
You're welcome.
old. Thank you so much. And while again, it does technically have an ending, the ending only takes bits and pieces of what actually ended up happening in the manga. Because again, similar to what I believe happened to Fullmetal Alchemist prior to the release of Brotherhood, the manga was still being written at the time of the episodes airing. So they would just ask the creator, in this case Hattori Bisco, what what the plans were for these characters and what plot points were important to bring up. And so they kind of got the main gist of it. They did their best, but unfortunately, it, in my opinion, does not hold up to the manga ending. It's also a case of, unfortunately, they really wanted a second season, and so it ends with them going, "We'll see you soon. The host club will always be here for you," type thing, and we never got it.
There's been a lot of animes getting resurgence and reboots,
I would love a reboot.
so I'm hoping that maybe with some attention, more people paying attention to it, it may just get that.
Yeah, I would definitely not do a full a full reboot. There are aspects of the anime that were solely their own. For example, there is a very funny character named Renga, who is the host club's quote unquote manager. She is purely a background character in the manga. She's important for a chapter, and then she just shows up every once in a while for continuity reasons. In the anime, she is a central side character. She appears in every episode to give exposition in the most hilarious way possible. So, again, things like that we can definitely keep. And again, I do highly recommend that you watch this. One, because it's hilarious. Two, because as we said, while one of the cast members of the dub is incredibly problematic, the rest of the cast are phenomenal. And I would, if we ever did get any reboot, I would hope that majority of them would come back to reprise their roles. It's also just a really beautifully animated series for, again, a comedy, romance, slice of life type thing. It probably didn't deserve to get the budget that it did, which might be why it didn't get a second season. But again, if you can find this, I believe it is on Crunchyroll. I highly, highly recommend. It is one of my absolute favorites, and I can clearly talk about it for a long time.
Yeah, a little bit too long.
Sorry.
We'll get into my next episode. I think we'll get into my next anime.
Yeah.
Next up on the list for me was one that really I put off watching for such a long time.
Okay.
And
is this one of those cases where somebody tells you you're really gonna like it, and then you just put it at the bottom of the pile?
No, it's just seeing the picture, going, that's weird, and just not giving it a chance.
Okay.
And then eventually just not having anything to watch, and I'm like,
might as well.
I've never actually looked at this. I might as well watch it. Binged the entire 2 seasons in one go. Like, I actually didn't sleep that night.
Oh wow.
I loved every second of it. It was amazing. And drum roll, it is Assassination Classroom.
Oh yeah, you do love that show.
Love Assassination Classroom, and one of the best. Is it openings? Oh, I actually forget if it's the opening or the ending. But some amazing music.
Mm-hmm.
An amazing story.
Question. Yep.
I have this down as sort of a drama because it is a comedy, but it's like a comedy drama.
Dramedy.
It's a dramedy.
Yeah.
Like, it is emotional. There is moments that people have like real heart to heart moments in it and stuff like that. There's a lot of sort of people working out issues, and it's a really good representation of some of that stuff too. And the basic premise of Assassination. It's so hard for me to say.
Hard title.
Assassination Classroom is that they're these troublesome kids, I guess. Like, they're on the bottom of the rung. They're just not teachable, and they're really just kind of forgotten, and no one wants to be their teacher. And basically, the main character, or the main focus of the anime, is this tentacle looking creature.
I would equate him to be like a weird yellow alien. I know he's not an alien. I do know that much.
I wouldn't say he's not an alien, but like, if I remember correctly, he was an experiment actually.
Right.
I think at one point he was actually human, but now he's not. His name is Koro Sensei, or Koro, and he is in the Japanese sub. He is voiced by Jun Fukuyama, who is absolutely fantastic. And basically, no one can kill this person, this thing. No one can kill Koro Sensei. He's
a doomsday clock.
He is a doomsday clock, basically, and he tells them that you have until this time to assassinate me, because if you don't, I'm going to destroy the world, basically. And he teaches them how to do it. He teaches them how to be assassins. You have to have a bit of suspension of disbelief in it. Like, it's a bit strange of an anime, but at the same time, it is one of the funniest shows to watch. Has a real depth to it, and by the end of it, you're genuinely you're feeling very strong emotions. I'll just say that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you cried.
I probably cried.
I'm pretty sure you did.
It was very emotional. Like, I got very invested in all the characters and in the relationship that this teacher has with the students, because these kids who are forgotten, nobody wants, left out, coming from really bad backgrounds.
Yeah.
He's the first person to actually take time and actually look at their needs and see them as people in like as individuals.
Oh,
And that's one of the main things that's like how he interacts with each person. He kind of helps them through their flaws and how he makes them look at their flaws as something that's not a flaw but a gift. And I think that's amazing that
yeah.
it's sort of just like don't let people walk over you, don't let them tell you that you're not worth much. Prove them wrong, prove me wrong.
It is a bit of a messed up relationship, though,
Yeah,
for
so
sure.
throughout the whole thing they're always trying to assassinate him, and it's funny how it just they don't get anywhere near, or all the different ways they try, and eventually you come to a culmination of the show, and all good things have to end. I'll put it that way. Highly recommend Assassination Classroom. To basically give a better overview, I am going to read out the description this time. It will do better than what I can do. So, the students of Class 3E have a mission: kill their teacher before graduation. He has already destroyed the moon. Oh, yeah, that's a point I forgot about.
Very Piccolo of him.
Yeah, he has already destroyed the moon and has promised to destroy the Earth if he cannot be killed within a year. But how can this class of misfits kill a tentacled monster, capable of reaching Mach 20 speed, who may be the best teacher any of them have ever had? So yeah, it's that kind of messed up thing that he is actually the greatest teacher they've ever had, and he is teaching them, but they also have to try and kill him to save the world.
Yeah, it's messed up.
So it's messed up, and I highly recommend it. It is an amazing story. There's plenty of content to go through. The first season has, I think I mentioned it, but the first season has 22 episodes.
Yeah, I remember trying to start it. I couldn't quite get into it, but I'm definitely gonna give it another go.
It was just all these animes I've been recommending to you for the longest time.
I know.
The next one is another one that I had at the top of my list as one for you.
Ooh, okay. Well, we'll get to that in a second. So my number three pick is K-On!
Seen that coming? Yep.
Yep.
It's not for everyone, but it is really fun.
Listen. Okay.
It is fun.
K-On! Specifically, I have favorited K-On! Season 2 because that's when a new cast member joins. This is another anime that came out in 2009. Second season came out in 2010. This is the one similar to you with Slime. I have watched all of the OVAs. I have watched the movie. I have every edition of the manga, including its two sequel spin offs. And K-On!, which is stylized K-O-N exclamation mark, is about a group of high school girls who start a light music club in their school. And
which became a trope for a lot of animes
yeah,
after
if you've
this.
ever watched an anime in which a bunch of cute girls are part of a club and they mainly just sit around, drink tea, and eat biscuits and cake, K-On! Is the originator of this trope. And it got weirder and weirder the more people tried to, jump off of that. K-On! Is to club anime what Sword Art Online was to modern day isekai, in my opinion. But yeah, our main character is a girl named Yui. She is not the brightest, putting it
That's
mildly.
yeah, that's putting it very mildly.
Yeah, like she's just started her high school career and she has no like real direction in her life, but she's also not really looking for direction, but she's bored. And so her friend, who is much smarter than her, says, "Why don't you join a club?" And so she finds one looking for members, the Light Music Club, and they go, "Great, what instruments do you play?" And she's like, "The castanets." What?
I'm surprised she didn't just go, "What's an instrument?"
They said like, "Oh, do you play the guitar?" And she goes, "Guitar,
um,
guitar," which is what she ends up naming her guitar. But anyway, she joins the club along with her contemporaries being Mio, Ritsu, and Mugi. They all, create a band together. I forget the name of the band, but I believe it is Tea Time.
I don't actually remember.
And eventually, when they join their second year of high school, they get a new member in Azusa, aka Azunyan, who becomes their secondary guitarist because Yui does end up becoming a savant at the guitar. She picks it up incredibly quickly. Mio is on bass, Ritsu is on drums, and Mugi is on the keyboard. And it's a really nice anime because one, it is incredibly slice of life. It's very, very slow paced. Yes, there is like a goal in mind in terms of we need to write songs, we need to get ready for this big performance on this club day, etc., that type of thing. But it's also just really, really easy to just like put it on and just kind of, wrap yourself up in a warm blanket of this anime and just go along with the silly escapades of these girls, such as Yui picking out her first guitar and confusing the only male character ever named, the guy who runs the music shop, like to the degree that like he doesn't understand why she doesn't understand things about guitars, and then Mugi essentially buying the whole store because she's rich. So it is very much comedy focused. However, because it is a anime based around music, the songs in it are incredible. Every single one of these is a banger. I used to have them on my old iPod like for years, and I still occasionally like go back to some of them just because they are so good. Every opening is great, every ending is great. The interstitial songs in between like each episodes are great. And again, you really get the sense that these girls are working towards something together. I will say my experience is purely with the sub. This is one of those times where we're not going to have a full sub versus dub discussion, but I tend to stick with what I'm first exposed to, if possible. And one of the great things about watching it subbed is the movie is 10 times funnier if you watch it subbed because it's about these girls going to London and not understanding English.
Yeah, it is a bit of a weird moment when they're in England, not able to speak English, but they're speaking
They're
English.
speaking American, yeah. As I said, it also has two spin offs. It did have 2 seasons of movie and a few OVAs. I don't believe any of the OVAs, unless new ones came out in the meantime, touch on the spin offs of the manga, in which the four initial girls go to college and join bands there. And the other spin off is Azusa in her third year of high school becoming the leader of the club and requiring new members, otherwise, it's going to get shut down. But yeah, highly recommend. It's just nice, fluffy fun, fwa time. It's great. I love it so much.
K-On! Is definitely one that I also agree with
Mm-hmm.
you recommending. It's honestly, in my opinion as well, it is a must watch, I think, for anyone getting into anime because it's the start of a lot of tropes going into
Yeah,
future content.
as we said, it kind of pioneered the girls in club having tea all the time,
Yeah.
which was rampant during the 2010s.
And to me, that is a slice of life.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
Uh,
It's not like Lucky Star level,
okay,
but it's
let's not go there.
close.
Let's not go there.
I'll just keep naming anime that make you mad.
Lucky let's not start.
Lucky Star.
I'm. It has an audience, but there is no plot, zero plot. If you want to feel, you want a nice feel good, Lucky Star, but don't expect any story.
No, if you want all the vibes of Lucky Star, but with an overarching plot and goal, K-On! Is where you go. And again, recommend the movie too. The movie's really good.
So we are getting on to my fourth choice now,
Yes.
and this is also fantasy.
Isekai.
Yeah, it is an isekai as well. It is fantasy, but for me, I think this is a little bit like my slice of life choice.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that I've been trying to get you to watch for the longest time because it is 100% an anime you will enjoy.
Oh, is it the librarian one?
Yes.
Okay.
So my fourth choice is Ascendance of a Bookworm.
Mm-hmm.
End of.
Okay.
No,
Well, my fourth choice.
so Ascendance of a Bookworm is basically, as mentioned, it's an isekai, a girl who loves nothing more than reading. She basically lives her life in books. Uh, I can't remember the reason, but she ends up passing and she reincarnates in this world. But when she awakens, she finds out that she is basically she's in the medieval world, like medieval
Mm-hmm.
times. She is just a common girl, like just a standard commoner. Her mother's a tailor, I think, and her father is a guard. And
Not the type of people that would have access to a lot of books.
yeah, she's extremely young when she reincarnates. Like she was a teenager, I think, or like young, very young adult, kind of between teenage and young adult
Wow. Okay.
when she died. But now she's this really small, very sickly girl. who's not allowed to leave the house,
Oh no. Okay.
who has, well, no source of book in any way. She asks about a book, and they basically are like, "What do you think we are, rich or something? Like
Yeah. I mean,
only nobles have books. That's
most
insane."
people wouldn't even know how to read then.
Yeah, no, and her family were no exception. They didn't actually know how to read either. So yeah, her world basically gets turned upside down. She is now in this world, and I mean, I'd say she's a book dragon more than a book worm.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Um,
By which we mean a hoarder.
like books is this girl's life.
Yeah.
So, well, what is she gonna do if she can't read because only nobles have books? Because, well, it takes a very long time to make a book. Paper's super expensive. Like they have to hand write out everything. It isn't like just,
This is pre-printing press.
yeah, this is before the printing press. So
And
what?
even then, in the real world, printing presses, once they first were established, were only used for like copies of religious texts.
And we'll get to the religious texts.
Oh, okay. Shit. All
so
right.
so she basically makes it her goal to make the printing press. She goes through the history of bookmaking and brings her uh, modern world knowledge
Mm-hmm.
and her vast amounts of knowledge from reading to try and make her own books. She's like, well, if I can't read here, then I'll just write my own books.
Makes sense.
And she goes on this journey of how to make a book, basically. And in the process, she also, like, she makes shampoo, and she brings all these kind of modern things back to medieval times. And she's quite, like, I think she starts off as a 4-year old girl, but she's obviously extremely clever.
Mm-hmm.
People can't believe she's doing the things she's doing, and she becomes basically a businesswoman as well at some point.
Wow. She's got blue hair, right? Because I remember you showing me the character
Yes,
before.
yeah, she has blue hair, and same as her father. Her father has blue hair as well, and her name is Min. Kind of a strange one, but yeah, her name is Min, and she finds out as well when she wakes up in this body is that basically the sickness she has, it's a kind of sickness that grants her like huge amounts of mana, but basically drains her life force. And normally people who have it live very short lives. So she kind of finds out that she's technically not long for this world, and that drives her more to try and bring books to people before that time is up. So, as mentioned, the religious texts earlier, and it's a little bit further down the line, but basically, she learns that there is a way to kind of keep her alive, but also for her, a way for her to actually read books, and that is through the church.
Okay.
So, she ends up eventually moving away from her family, and like it is a case of she kind of has to give up her old life. She now gives her life to God, basically, to the church. But the church need to replenish the magic and mana in the artifacts they have, and so they are able to let her pour her mana into these artifacts, which means that the mana she's generating isn't overwhelming her and she isn't dying.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense.
So it's really intriguing. Again, it has absolutely amazing world building. The characters in it do develop really well. Like she interacts with a bunch of different characters throughout the whole thing. Like she interacts with a merchant who helps her basically make this business of hers come alive, who is also sourcing the materials uh, for making the books in the different methods she has. There's the friend who is one of kind of the local boys. He's the youngest in their family as well, and he's head over heels for her, even at that age. Of course,
Aw.
she's a little bit weirded out by it because she kind of still remembers, oh well, I'm a
I'm an adult woman in a child's body.
basically, but I think she kind of just comes to accept her new life eventually. And then yeah, there's the head of the church who kind of cares for her in a way. They're not the head of the church, but he's like a high ranking priest in the church.
Okay.
Uh, but then the actual head of the church kind of dislikes her and stuff like that. So just this really intriguing political, this sort of like religious political game that's happening,
Mm-hmm.
and just how she's getting around stuff and basically staying alive and making everything better for people because she helps orphans out as part of the church. She starts learning magic and she gets really powerful. Well, she learns some control over her power basically, and she
Right.
becomes more useful.
Yeah. I remember you mentioning that one in the past, and it does look really cute. And I know the reason that you're recommending it to me specifically is because I was a bit of a bookworm in the past.
Yeah,
It's also I like those types of slice of life isekais more so.
I genuinely think you will love Ascendance of a Bookworm. It's just so heartwarming and cute.
Mm-hmm.
Has its moments where it's a little sad, but
Yeah.
I think just storytelling in it is one of the biggest reasons why I love it so much. It really draws you into the world and makes you feel like it's something that could exist. Which I'm talking about world building in our D&D episode.
Yeah.
It's just I love that side of things. I love the political intrigue, the the idea of how certain things work, or actual social demographics and like the differences between class.
Yes.
So it has it all. If you're interested in that sort of stuff, definitely worth checking out. Oh, sorry, I will just say, in terms of ranking, I ranked it a 9 out of 10 actually,
Oh, that's fair.
and there is a second season as well. So,
Have you watched that?
yeah, I've finished it all.
Okay.
Was there a third season? I don't remember if there's third season or not. There's a lot to it. There's 36 episodes total by the looks of it.
Okay.
So across everything, I think. Well, there's 26 and then 10 side stories.
Oh.
So it's 36 total.
Okay. So my number fourth pick, which you definitely didn't snipe immediately when we started recording this.
It wouldn't happen to be something about demons, would it?
Definitely not something to do with slaying demons. Yes, it is Demon Slayer, which is arguably one of the most popular animes out at the moment. Currently still running. It's one of the ones that even normies kind of know about.
Yeah. Actually, I think like a cousin of ours mentioned it as well. They like someone might know of anime, but Demon Slayer is probably the one that someone could name.
Yeah, it's essentially become what Naruto was in the 2010s.
A little bit, yeah, kind of. It's so hard to avoid it. It's everywhere.
Yeah. And it's everywhere because it's really, really good and you shouldn't let that deter you.
It is very good. I think it has. I think it has a select audience, but
I don't even think that it does. So
it
to
does. I've heard very polarizing things about it.
okay, well to explain what it is,
Yeah. Okay, it's not.
it is set in the Taisho period in Japan. One of my favorite historical periods of Japan to see on screen because it's a midsection between the westernization of Japan. So I believe it aligns with the 1930s, 1920s. So at the same time, while you're seeing very traditional Japanese dress, you are also seeing the influence of westernized culture where people are wearing suits and, you know, fedoras and things like that. And, steamworks are going ahead and all of that stuff. So visually, that's already a very, very interesting thing. And our protagonist, Tanjiro, lives with his family up in a secluded area in the woods. They are charcoal sellers, and one day he comes back having not been able to stay the previous night with his family because the weather was too bad for him to get home after charcoal selling. And he comes to find his family all dead, essentially. They've all been murdered by a demon. He finds his sister, Nezuko, who is barely clinging on to life, and unfortunately finds out that she has been turned into a demon.
Yeah, the only reason she was able to be turned into a demon is because it wasn't just a demon.
It
It
was the demon.
it was the demon that killed the family.
Yeah.
Kind of from the start, having inclinations of if this particular demon has killed your family, there must be some sort of reason.
Yes.
Won't get into it, but You'll notice it when you see it.
Yeah. And so Tanjiro has now committed himself to finding a cure for his sister's demonic nature. He undergoes a training arc essentially to become a demon slayer, which is a kind of an underground organization of people who are skilled in specific martial arts that are able to kill these demons. Tanjiro is a fantastic protagonist. He is later joined by two others, Zenitsu and Inosuke. Um, and they're just a great bunch of lads. I refer to them as Earth's mightiest himbos. I think the mangaka has been quoted on saying he couldn't decide which type of idiot protagonist to use, so he used all three. But they're honestly all, well, Zenitsu has his problems, but they're all very enjoyable in their own way. They work really well together. We also do have Nezuko as a main character as well. She is adorable and terrifying at the same time.
One of my favorite characters
Yeah,
is Nezuko.
she's great. I have to say there is not a dull moment with this anime, because one of the things you can run into with long run series, especially shonen series, is the opportunity for filler. Filler is not a word in the Demon Slayer vocabulary. There is never a dull moment with this show.
Yeah, even though there's bits that are pretty much filler,
Like they're
they're all
slower
very
paced.
yeah, but they're also very substantial. Like
Yeah.
everything's important. There's no
Yes.
wasted time in it.
Every character is important. You never get the feeling that you're just kind of meandering through the plot. Everything is very, very deliberate. And I think it is because the manga series, I think, only expands 12 volumes total, thereabouts. And so it also means because there is so much in this story, because I believe this is also a one that has been pioneered originally by Crunchyroll. Don't quote me on that. But because there is so much to do, entire arcs are kind of like subjugated to one season, and in some cases they are put into movies.
I think the first season was actually on Netflix.
Oh, you're so right. It was on Netflix.
I think, like, at least for over here, I think the first thing was on Netflix. I'm
And
not
then it was
sure.
bought by Crunchyroll. Yeah, you're so right.
I'm not sure. Like, I think that's just the Western distributors. I'm not sure if it was made in Japan for something else or not. But
But as I said, there's like we saw the oh I tell a lie, I'm just double check. There's 23 volumes of the manga, but we saw the Mugen Train movie in cinemas, in the Lighthouse Cinema in Central City, Dublin, and the atmosphere was electric the entire time.
yeah, it's one of those things that if it was ever in the cinema again, I would 100% go and watch that movie again. It was just so good.
It was amazing. I legitimately cried. The performances are already good. The animation is stunning. It has a really good utilization of 2D and 3D assets, which is a rarity in anime quite a lot of the time. Sometimes the 3D is either overused or it's not used effectively. But with Demon Slayer, it's almost seamless at times.
It is funny as well, though, that in Demon Slayer, it's the anime that's really well received. People love the anime,
Yes.
but not the most well received series for its manga.
Yeah, I believe it had the opposite issues that One Punch Man did. If you're unfamiliar with One Punch Man, it was a originally a webcomic adapted into a manga, adapted into an anime.
One
One
punch.
Punch. It's about a guy that punches things.
With just one punch.
The anime was not as popular as the manga adaptation because the manga, which I actually do own some of, is stunningly illustrated, even though it is an action comedy. Like there are punches, there's impact like frames that go over multiple like 2 page spreads so that you really feel the weight of them, and you don't get that impact when watching it in animation for some reason.
Yeah, it feels like there's more weight carried in the pages than what they show in animation, which is very interesting because you would feel like an action like that
Yeah,
would translate so much better into an animation, but it doesn't. It doesn't
yeah.
have the same
Whereas,
impact.
for lack of a better term, but Demon Slayer, from my understanding, has the opposite effect, in which the mangaka, the creator of the manga, was not good and was not confident in drawing fight scenes. So they are quite short and subdued and, kind of like overbeared with like a lot of cutaways and talking, being like, oh, I'm getting low in my defenses or whatever. The anime makes up for a lot of that. And the fight scenes are some of the most gorgeous that you'll ever see in animation. So I think that's the main reason why the manga is not as well received as the show. Because if you're going from the manga to the show, you're going to have a fantastic time. It's a very good adaptation, from my understanding. If you're going backwards and saying, like, oh, I'm caught up on the anime, I want to read more of the manga, you might be left disappointed that way.
Yeah, probably. I'm sure it's still like the story itself is very good
Yeah.
reading it in that way, but it does not have in any way the same magic as the beautiful animations that the show has. Because I believe in the Crunchyroll Awards, multiple categories, it won best of.
Yeah, I believe it. It's also, as mentioned, because it is so fast paced, I really like the way that it is segmented, in that you know straight away that you are in for a season's, it's basically a season long fight in a lot of cases. Because similar to the Mugen Train, which was a movie, an entire arc was just one movie, I believe it was 120 minutes, I think. Each season is a complete arc. And you might get like one episode in where we like, here's our area, here are the characters who are important. Episode 2, all right, we fight in this demon and we're gonna keep fighting him until episode 12.
It might not be quite as much as that, but it feels like that.
It certainly feels like that, but the thing is, you're on the edge of your seat the whole time. It's not like Dragon Ball, where it's like, we've been fighting Frieza for 3 episodes in a row now. What's the next thing? It just like everything feels so. Even though you know the good guys are likely going to win, you have no idea what sacrifices are going to have to be made along the way. And that's what keeps you hooked.
Yeah, there's consequence in the show. In Demon Slayer, there is consequences, and at any moment something could happen. There's no the good guy will always win, most likely will, but they don't always. Sometimes they lose.
They will receive grievous bodily harm in doing so.
There's moments where they're like basically out of commission. It's a time skip mostly, so
Yeah.
again, time's not wasted here. But they find out that they've been out of commission for several months, if not, I think it's like almost a year at one point.
Yeah, I think so. I guess one of the main reasons I did put this on my list is I've mentioned a lot of anime thus far that are kind of, by today's standards, underground, just due to their age. Like, people will know them for the culture, but not a lot of people nowadays would have watched them. Demon Slayer is everywhere. And I feel like when a series like this has been pushed so much and is in the public eye as often as it is, there is a tendency for people to go, oh, it's popular, therefore I won't watch it and I'll be contrarian and counterculture. No, watch Demon Slayer. It's really, really good, and you will do yourself a disservice by skipping it.
So overall, what was the score that was
It's
on that one?
five out of
Actually,
five, man.
5 out of 5 for
Five
you.
out of 5 stars. In fairness, everything on my list is 5 out of 5, with the exception of Haruhi Suzumiya, which is a 4.
So
But still,
let's not go with your grading then,
5 out of 5.
because Haruhi at best is a 2.
You shush. I said my piece.
Anyways, this is why your out of 10 works better, but
Listen,
if everything just gets 5 stars,
not everything gets 5 stars.
you're right. Haruhi should be 2.
Listen, we know from our Zenless on Zero episode that I don't like giving low scores.
So with the low scores, I think I might actually challenge that. And I think in future we should have an episode of worst animes to watch.
Oh, well, they definitely know what I'm putting on that.
But you still should watch them, but they're
No.
really bad to watch.
No. Mm-mm. I have an anime to avoid list, that's for sure.
I'm sure there's plenty, but my number 5, or what I think is the best must watch, is a little bit of a weird one. It is a romance. Well, it's a rom com. I have to have at least one in the list here somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's also slice of life, and there's a little bit of fan service. It's a bit edgy, and This is the only one on my list that actually got a full 10 out of 10.
Okay.
Like this is probably is one of my favorite animes of all time and manga. I read the manga as well as watching the anime. My choice that is a must watch is My Dress Up Darling.
I knew it.
Yeah. So I would recommend this to most people just because it is something different. Basically, the main character or one of the two main characters is a doll maker. He makes Hina dolls, which is a traditional doll that you can find in Japan. And he learned from his grandpa, but it's one of those things that he's a bit secretive about because he feels like people will just find him weird. He has a little bit of a complex because when he was younger, tried to show off this really cool thing that his granddad does. He just had a girl laugh at him or get weird because like, oh my god, you play with dolls and this sort of thing. So he got a complex about it ever since. And he makes the outfits for it. He does the makeup on the dolls and all this sort of stuff. And one of the girls in the school is basically she's like one of the really popular girls. It's like there's no way a girl like this would ever interact with someone lowly like me. We're in different worlds. And I can't remember exactly what happens, but she ends up seeing the dolls at some point and he thought it was over. She's gonna spread around school and she thought they were absolutely adorable. They're really cool, and was very impressed that he was able to make them, that he made the outfits and stuff like that. And basically, he feels accepted, and she's just thinking, "Oh my god, this is exactly what I need. Someone to help me make an outfit for my cosplay." So she's kind of, I won't say closeted, but she's a bit of an otaku, and she loves dressing up. Hence the name "My Dress Up Darling." And she asks if he could help in school with an outfit. I think he reluctantly agrees. Like eventually he does come around, sees the outfit, and the outfit is really not that good, but he helps her finish it, and then it kind of just becomes this thing that just continues on. They start basically working together more often, and it's how their relationship evolves as they go through it. It's very sweet. It's a different kind of story. It's not your usual romance, and it's well worth watching, in my opinion.
Yeah, I've not seen the show, but I have read some of the manga. We have about 5 volumes of it here. I did enjoy the story, and I do think the art's very good.
I will say that the anime is toned down from the manga.
Yeah, I was gonna say the manga does lead a little more toward the etchy side.
It's still not its main focus, though.
No, it's not its main focus at all. I think it's just a product of the artwork. And again, I understand that being toned down. I'll be honest, I find some of the side characters a little hard to deal with.
I can barely remember them. I
I
remember
mean, they're not important.
I think there's this really young, cutesy looking girl, but she's actually a lot older than she looks.
Yeah, she's like an upperclassman to them, and then the girl who is taller and well endowed is an underclassman.
Yeah, she's the younger sister, but she actually wants to play male characters, but finds it very difficult because she is very well endowed.
Yeah, I do think the core romance in it is very, very sweet, and the main character is very likable and very sympathetic.
Yeah, the two main characters are definitely the main focus of the whole thing. There is some development and engagement with other characters, and the stories can be cute, but you really are just kind of going, just get back to these two. But art style is absolutely fantastic. If you are really into cosplay or you love the idea of cosplay, it is something else as well that will speak to you. You'll understand the struggles inside the show,
Yeah.
and if you are one of those people who had a hobby that people would make fun of for, maybe you like dolls, you'll also relate with the main character here. It is great to see him get over this sort of issue he has with himself and learn that people do accept him for who he is. So it's really nice.
Yeah, it's a really good recommendation.
And I think we have your final choice.
Yes, which is also a rom com.
Okay, both of our top spots are rom coms.
Yeah. Now, I've technically already had a rom com on my list, that being Oran High School Host Club. However, I refer to that as a com rom because the comedy is
It's
first
mostly
and foremost.
comedy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the comedy is put first and foremost. The romance comes secondary. Whereas with my fifth pick, it is definitely a rom com. The romance is the main source of it. It's a relatively new anime. It only came out this year. I own two of the omnibus
Oh,
volumes.
yeah, this is actually one of my honorable mentions, so
Yeah,
I'm
so
glad you recommended this.
yeah, so this is Sign of Affection. I love this anime so much.
It is
It
fantastic.
makes my heart swell.
It is again one of my favorites, and I think like they need to do a lot more shows
I
like this.
cannot wait for season 2.
So if you want to explain,
Yeah, so it's called Sign of Affection, and it stars our female protagonist Yuki, who is a college student in, I think, an area just outside of Tokyo, and she is deaf. She communicates wholly through sign language and lip reading. That's why it's called A Sign of Affection. On the train one day, she is tapped on the shoulder by somebody who doesn't realize that she's deaf. She can't really understand what they're saying because he keeps like turning his head away. She can't read his lips. And then a mysterious boy shows up to get the guy's attention and he answers the questions for him. And this is our male love interest, Itsumi, who is a character in and of himself. He goes to her college, but she's never really seen him around before because he is always traveling. He is fluent in 3 languages, and when he notices that she's deaf, kind of takes an interest in her, wants to learn sign language because he wants to understand how she communicates. It's a very, very cute series. Yuki as a protagonist is absolutely adorable. And Itsumi as a love interest is also a lot of fun. Um, it's also nice, I think, to have romance animes that are not set in high school.
yeah, it is very refreshing to have something that's in college
Yeah.
because I understand it's this sort of like lost youth that they always want to try and portray, and
Mm-hmm.
you know that's kind of what they're trying to appeal to in a lot of anime. But when you have anime that really is aimed at young adults and young adults and adults as well, like just
Yeah.
that are kind of currently going through those experiences, it's refreshing.
It's nice. And like Yuki, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, is still a teenager. She's like 19, whereas Itsu is 21. So like it's not as though they are that far away from high school in a way, and their high school careers do come up by way of backstory. Um, Another thing I really really like about this anime is they don't waste any time in regards to like, is there some unrequited love elements in the background with secondary characters? Yes, but that's not the main focus. Like, that's literally just in the background. A friend of Yuki's has a crush on her, an old friend of Itsu's has a crush on him. And it's kind of like, this is a factor in their lives, but it's not getting in way of the plot. It's not doing the thing that I hate when it comes to romance animes, which is, oh, a new rival has turned up. We're going to spend 2 to 3 episodes on this topic alone. And it's going to be a bunch of misunderstandings and nonsense. No, Itsu and Yuki have a very healthy relationship that is built on communication.
It's kind of the whole point of the show is communication.
Yeah, it's so good. I do recommend the manga as well because it communicates Yuki's deafness in a very interesting way. Because the way it happens in the show is we get Yuki's inner monologue and we understand the world through her eyes. So we will get the subtitles depending what somebody's saying, and if she doesn't understand them, we won't get any subtitles at all. How it's communicated in uh the manga is if she only kind of like half gets something, the letters will be jumbled up or sometimes they'll be sideways. So it's a very like interesting manga to read visually as well. And the character designs, while very simple, because again, this is a slice of life, very grounded in reality, honestly, more than some other romantic comedies are, type anime, the character designs themselves are very memorable and very, very beautiful. And because it's something that focuses on lip reading and communication, it's one of the first animes I've seen in a long time where the characters actually have lips.
Yeah. Um, it's almost jarring seeing the lips because there's so much attention given to the lips that it's a little bit strange at first because you can see the definition.
Yeah, yeah. And I know we watched this as it was airing. It came out earlier this year, like so. This is brand new in terms of like seasons.
Oh, just waiting every week for the next episode to come out was just torture.
Yeah, and the thing is, because it is so well written, we're not sure what Itsu's intentions are because he has a bit of a reputation as like, oh, he's really attractive. All of these foreign girls like him. He speaks English and German, and oh, he's a jet setter or whatever. And so I was 100%, let's go Itsu. This is going to be great. Whereas you had misgivings about him, which I believe is the intention of the anime, anyways.
Yeah, it's really interesting that also in the show that I guess that the women are kind of still going, yay, let's
Yes.
go, let's get this go. And then the male character in the show has his grievances going, I don't trust it.
Well, yeah, because there's, as I said, is the friend of Yuki's who is also skilled in sign language, who has a crush on her, instantly distrusts Itsu.
He doesn't really, he doesn't realize it's a crush kind of initially. And
Yeah,
then,
it clearly is from the outside.
yeah, you
Um,
see it straight away for what
yeah,
it is.
but even then, like you have Itsu's cousin, who is another side character, um, who is like older than them. He runs his own bar, and he hears like, oh, she really likes him. They're hanging out more, and he's like, is that okay for them to do that? So like you have the sense that not everybody is in Itsu's corner, apart from Yuki's female friends who are like, yeah, girl, you go get him.
Yeah, but from our view as well, like later on, it just shows that he really is that madly in love with her.
Yeah, there's a really great bit where she's over in his apartment and he hears her laugh for the first time, and it takes
That's
his breath
us
away.
hearing. It's us hearing her laugh for the first time too.
It's so cute. It's so nice. The anime is, as I said, only has one season right now. I am waiting for season two. The manga, to the extent that I have it, I have up until volume 6. It goes a little bit farther than in the anime, and it's still being released in Japan. The localization is a bit behind.
Yeah, um the next bit of localization for it isn't for a good bit, so
Yeah.
I think it's not going to be until next year actually.
No, I want more. I want it now.
I think it's early next year, but still,
Ah. But yeah, again, if you're looking for a romantic comedy that is heavier on the romance than it is on the comedy, not to say that this isn't funny, it is in a lot of ways. It is just a very, very sweet love story that has a view into the life of somebody that you wouldn't generally consider to be an anime protagonist. You don't see a lot of anime, especially, that focuses on people with disabilities. I've seen a fair few manga. There is that very famous movie as well, which the name of which is escaping me at the moment.
I'm not sure what the name is either. But it it's interesting as well because the mangaka didn't have prior knowledge of a lot of the sign language and stuff.
Yeah, she actually works with a sign language interpreter named Yuki, and thanks her in every edition of the manga, and like does her best to draw the signs accurately. And it is interesting, like learning a little bit of Japanese sign language through watching, because again, the animation pays such attention on the hand movements and the lip movements to make sure that you are fully understanding how Yuki experiences the world.
And there's things that you just really would never consider from their perspective. It's really enlightening and opens your eyes to a whole different world that you know it is their world. This is what they live every single day,
Yeah.
and the things you take for granted. It just it does really make that kind of magical love story because it's so different that it's it's alien, it's different that you don't really think about it.
Yeah. And it does make me question why we don't see series like this more often. Like in Western media, especially in children's cartoons, you might get an episode in which, oh, this character is deaf or has a limb length difference or like is in a wheelchair or is autistic. And we'll talk about that for an episode. And then it's kind of like moved on from. But I can't think of any Western media, animated or otherwise, other than some like very highbrow indie films that focus around deafness as a central character trait, or even as a secondary character trait, being like, "This is our classmate. She's deaf, but she's here the whole time." You know,
Daredevil.
I said deafness.
Oh, well, true, deafness.
Also, Daredevil is that's different because it's superhero media. I mean, I guess Echo, which was not well received,
True.
but
It's very difficult to have a media that typically has sound be about something that doesn't.
yeah. To which I say, get your shit together, film industry. Do
I'm
do
sure there's
better.
plenty of short movies like indie stories, indie movies that
Yeah.
focus on it, but yeah, it's not the thing that sells, and that's unfortunately it's really unfortunate that that's sometimes where you have to look at this from is that they will produce what is the moneymaker. They produce what does well in the box office. They produce what people expect,
Yeah. Well,
and
I'm hoping that because Sign of Affection has been so well received as an anime, that this is going to pave the way for more adaptations of a similar nature.
already because of it, there actually has been more announcements for. I think there's one anime of a girl in a wheelchair, and I think there's another
Yeah.
one. I think there is one for a blind girl coming up or a blind person. I do remember making the comments that, oh, interesting, Sign of Affection comes out, and now there's a bunch of things getting the green light.
Sometimes you need something to open the door for you. So I'm happy that Sign of Affection is doing that for the industry now. Well, I'm hoping that this is going to lead to more and more um, adaptations of works that might not, that might get looked over for lack of a better term. But again, Sign of Affection, highly, highly recommend as a romance. Highly recommend as a comedy. It's one of my favorites. Full stop. It's like one of my favorite animes. Period. Now.
Yeah, and again, I'm very glad you had this on your list because
Yeah.
100% I agree with you that this is definitely a must watch.
Do we want to get into some honorable mentions before we wrap up?
We can mention a couple, but again, we're not going to get into details.
No, no, no.
Like, we won't give any descriptions as such. We'll just say, if you're interested as well in some of the stuff that we've talked about, here's a couple of others we recommend.
Yeah, like I would say if you if you like Demon Slayer but want something with a bit more comedy to it, Welcome to Demon School Irdamakun.
Yes, great.
That's such a good one. It is very much comedy focused, but again, it gives you that action that you need.
Yeah. Um, and then I think, like, for slice of life and stuff like that as well, there's, oh God, there's so many.
There is a lot.
But one of the ones that, well, we talked about earlier, it doesn't have any plot, but Lucky Star,
Lucky Star is very special.
it is certainly special. Um, there's a big, huge, this is a real Irish thing there. There is a huge push now on idol groups, like
Oh
idol anime.
yeah.
It's not really my cup of tea or Hannah's.
I used to watch like things similar to that, like Love Live.
Yeah, I think we did watch Love Live, but overall, there's too much to keep track of. But I will say, if they are worth watching, they're very good. slice of life animes. They're very good slice of life animes, and they do have a lot of great characters.
Yeah,
Fantastic music, as you would imagine.
yeah, similar to K-On! In that effect.
They tend to all use the same program when it comes to all the shows, though. So,
Mm.
um, if you're looking for something kind of fun with music, or if K-On! Was something that appealed to you, the idol group animes will probably appeal to you as well.
Yeah, and if you like, as we said, similar to Orange High School Host Club, a romantic comedy that is more calm than rom, but you also like the fact that Sign of Affection is not set in a high school, highly recommend Wotakoi, Love is Hard as an Otaku.
Oh yeah, Watakoi was. Did I watch that first, or did you?
We watched that together, I think.
Oh,
Um,
you mentioned. Yeah, you were talking about how it looked interesting, so I watched it with you.
yeah, that was one that was kind of hard to watch. I think we had to watch that on Amazon. It only got one season, unfortunately. I think it may have gotten an OVA after that, but I don't think there's any plans to renew it. Um, but again, it's about these two childhood friends who reconnect at their new office jobs, and they are both big otaku. She is closeted, he is not, and it's about those two, starting their new relationships as coworkers and as lovers.
Yeah, to keep it brief.
Yeah.
And I can kind of like one of my honorable last mentions is it's kind of a hard one to recommend, which is why it didn't make the list, but at the same time, it's absolutely amazing story wise. First season, like the first few episodes, good few episodes,
Oh God,
it is a hard watch.
what is it?
Um, I'm trying to think. So its English title would be technically Jobless Reincarnation.
Oh, it's this one. Yep.
Yeah. In Japanese, it's known as Mushoku Tensei. It's the main character is not likable initially. He is a horrible person. He misses out on a funeral because he's busy jacking off.
Jesus Christ.
And there's no way I can initially say, yeah, this is great, because at the start, I kind of hate him. And I almost didn't get into this anime. But after a certain point, it really opened up. And my God, it is one of the deepest stories I've ever experienced. Um, Spanning, like, it is like you start with a character, and I'm going to keep it brief, but basically, you start with a character who you hate at the start. He dies, reincarnates, begins life as a baby. Straight away is perving over his mother's breasts.
That's not.
This is the kind of the bad stuff this is. But as he grows up, he matures, he learns his lesson, he becomes a better person, he does self reflect, goes through goes through trauma, goes through multiple things, and it's a story that spans multiple seasons, and throughout all, he grows from being a small child to basically being an adult with his own wife and kid on the way. So it is fantastic. I do recommend it if you can get by the first part.
It kind of sounds like when people try to tell me to watch Parks and Recreation. It's really good after season 3.
Yeah, it gets good in season one, but it's a little bit like how Goblin Slayer was for me.
Oh yeah,
Like
that's
Goblin
a rough
Slayer,
start.
a lot of people say is a fantastic anime, but I couldn't get past those initial scenes of very triggering content. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah, yeah. I've never been able to watch Goblin Slayer for the same reasons.
So that's the last honorable mention I have. Um, yeah, watch it if you want. definitely no hard feelings if you don't.
Please be sure to let us know if you do start watching any of our recommendations, what some of your must watch animes are. As we said, we are using AniList to track our own like watch lists and things like that. I've added several of the ones that we've mentioned here today. Yeah, you can contact us on all of the places except for TikTok. If you've been following us on Twitter, you know we have a bit of a difficult situation going on with our Twitch account. So streams have been moved over to YouTube. So if you are following us on Twitch, please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Irish Nerdcast.
Yeah, an Irish Nerdcast YouTube channel will have a lot of content coming in future. We're going to finish having our podcast videos up. We're going to have future clips, our streams, and we may possibly make one or two short videos as well there at some point. It is planned, but not necessarily in production.
We're doing our best.
So if you like this content and you also want to show us your support, we really appreciate you going over to Patreon.
Mm-hmm.
We will have a link in our description, and any little contribution will help us be able to make more content like this.
And with that, I'm Hannah,
And I'm Jojo.
and we'll see you in the next one.
Slán go fóill.